So, happy Halloween, everybody. The other day, we released a video going over my marketing operations and agentic AI plus modular content database point of view. And I got a lot of feedback on where would it fit in? How would it work? And as I'm talking to other colleagues in the marketing ops space, I just started talking about what is just another day in the office for most marketing ops people, but kind of applies itself to like horror stories. So in the theme of Halloween, I put on my skeleton costume here, and we're gonna go over some marketing ops horror stories. So before we dive in, viewer discretion advised, right? If you've been doing marketing ops for a long time, like myself, a lot of these probably have some emotional baggage with it. I know myself, I probably won't be sleeping much next few days, going over and reliving a lot of these stories, but I think it's important we kind of talk about, some of the real spooky stuff out there and some of the trauma we've all had. It might be cathartic for us as marketing ops pros. So, first story I'm going to talk about is a pharma brand, right? This is a life science brand that we worked with that had a large agency budget, huge agency budget. We're doing all their media buys, placements, so on and so forth. And they didn't really think much of it, right? They had a regular spend, and we're just kind of going through it. So I'm working with them, and we're working on a new ad campaign and a lot of placement out there. And we were looking over the budgets, and they were taking a leaderboard ad, 730 by 90, 728 by 90, one of those ones you put down on like a footer. And they had to resize it, right? So they're resizing it to a billboard ad, the 970 by 250. Large placement, really beautiful, right? The agency they were working with was charging them $10,000 for this. It was wild. I first thought that I am definitely in the wrong profession. Resizing an image and making $10,000 off of it is awesome. But granted, they were talking about how, okay, well, we needed to get it approved. We need to go through the MLR process all over again. And yes, you did, but the content was already approved and you were just resizing it, adding a bigger background. So like, what did it really make sense there? Probably not, right? And I remember having a conversation with the person being a budget, being like, "Hey, did you see this?" And they were like, Mike, thanks for the heads up. Let's not talk about this." Kind of went like that. And I don't know where they're going now, or don't want to really name names, but I'm sure it was a pretty tense conversation once that was there. Today's day and age, we shouldn't be spending $10,000 to resize ads, run ads, place ads, different story, but resizing definitely not. The next we're going to talk about is a system that was creating patient portals, another MLR process here, and they were using Salesforce and Viva, right? So they're using Salesforce experience pages to create their portals, do logins, all that type of thing. And they were using Viva and Viva Vault for the actual MLR process. Both of them top-notch tools, right? But the approval process took 3 to 4 days to get it uploaded to Viva for approval, right? 3 to 4 days because they need to take a screenshot of every claim, a screenshot of every page, button, everything across the board for upload, right? So as you can imagine, this is back to the old days where it was like check in, check outs, right? I was downloading screenshots to my machine to upload them to another system. This was in 2024, right? So it was last year, so maybe we can give it some credit, but no, I don't think so. And as we're talking about it, I kept going like, there has to be a better way. There has to be a better way that we can just send this more automated. I cannot be spending what effectively was a week worth of work just to upload images, right? And all I kept getting is, it's a process, Mike. This is a process. We got to follow the process. This is how it works. I all but lost it, right? Weeks of work just on uploading images, uploading images of screens, right? Because we needed to get it into Vault so that it could get approved and held there. Mind-boggling. So that was a foray into life sciences, right? You can imagine a lot of spooky stuff there, a lot of long nights and interesting conversations. But I want to talk about probably one of the most interesting conversations I've had, right? So, crypto exchange here, and they wanted to, be edgy. They're crypto, right? Be edgy, be out there, be one of the ones the crypto degens love, right? But they wanted to use what's kind of a normal term, I guess, in that kind of community, and they wanted to say Bitcoin is money. 3 words: Bitcoin is money, right? Um, Pretty innocuous thing if you ask me, someone who watches it, right? Like, oh, people say crazier stuff out there, but they're an exchange, they're regulated, they have to do it right. Now the problem came in where they wanted to say this Bitcoin is money, and the US marketing team was like, this is going to be great, we're going to run a campaign on it, it's going to be strong, it's going to be awesome, the Bitcoin community is really going to gravitate towards us, it's going to be awesome. Then others, in some of the other regions were like, well, I don't know, right? So they had these really weird conversations where it's like, why can't we say this? We just want to say it, just want to run it. Well, it turns out after review with all of the different compliance officers around the world, it's allowed in some states, but some regions, but not in others, right? So they can't say it in certain countries, and it spiraled into a long, drawn out, overblown argument, right? Where other countries were like, we have to run this. And some countries were like, we can't, we'll be sued, it's too risky, right? And they went back and forth. And this was weeks to a month plus of conversations over 3 words, where if this was caught earlier on, they probably could have massaged it. They could have said, okay, we're going to run this in the US. We're going to put the US disclosures on it and be very clear that this is not for, a different market, right? We're going to add our different geo disclosures here. Some kind of compliance aware assistant could have solved all of this and really could have gotten on top of and in front of all the conversations that happen with, executive level people talking about 3 words, right? That's before you get into the concept of just disclosures, right? If you're a financial company and you're doing global marketing, you need to do a disclosure for every geo that you're doing that marketing in, because all the disclosures are different, right? The regulatory landscape in each geo is different. So the disclosures are different. And I've been at companies where they're doing that and they're individually putting the disclosure on every single geo, right? Wild. A simple, like, intelligent platform that knows that, like, okay, well, this is where the website's coming up in Germany, we're going to add the German disclosure, so on and so forth. Or you're pumping out marketing ads and you're using a DAM that's going to automatically add the disclosures on the way out the door. Another one, great idea. But instead, we're just spending and wasting time adding disclosures over and over again. Mind boggling. And when it comes to wasting time and mind boggling, I think this is probably my scariest one. So last year, or the year before, I believe, actually, they kind of, I've tried to block this one out. So it's a tough one for me, but regulator from one of the countries came and they wanted to review marketing material, and it wasn't just review marketing material. It was, we would like a review of your marketing workflow to understand all of the marketing you've run in our country for the last calendar year. Mind you, this is right before the holidays. We want all the marketing you've run for the last calendar year in our geo. We want the tickets of the requests. We want the audit of the workflow. Who approved it, who reviewed it, who approved it, how did it go out the door, right? Is our country's compliance officer aware of this? So who in compliance is on top of it? Like all of those types of things. And then we like a comparison of what was approved versus what was actually published to ensure that they're the same, right? A pretty actually strong and straightforward, like, regulatory request, right? Like if I'm doing a marketing review of all the marketing in my country, I want to see, like, okay, you're going to do marketing. At the very least, I want to see, was what you approved what you actually published, to make sure that there's not changes in there. And then I want to know, like, what was your process of approving it? What did that look like? So, as you can imagine, that was wild, right? Several resources had to be diverted from work in progress and other day by day business as usual work to focus on this, because when a regulator asks for something, it's not like you can say, "Yep, sure, I'll get to that when I get to that," right? Um, so over the holiday season, right? Um, Several people had to get together, work crazy hours just to kind of put that together, right? They're sitting there and they're ripping out all of the tickets from Jira, ensuring it's just for that geo. Because, like, I'm not sharing the workflow for a different geo. That's not what the regulator asked for, right? So aligning it just to that geo, then finding the actually published marketing material and pulling that back in to compare it to what was approved. That's a lot of work, right? And something that needing several humans to put together to pull all together, right? Like, that's a lot of work, and something that led to a very interesting holiday season. And again, like I said, I try not to dwell on this one because this one hurts close to home, and um, led to a lot of Mike sleeping on the couch nights. But it's still, is an important one, I think, to address here. I think it's something, as marketing ops people, we probably do have nightmares about. Especially if you're in the regulatory space, a regulator coming knocking, saying, "Hey, give me an audit trail of everything that you created for the last year. I have enough trouble creating and publishing the content. You want me to go back and pull it together," right? So my lessons learned here is that, as marketing operations teams and marketing teams as general, right? If you're in a regulated landscape, you need to protect yourself, right? So first, an integrated workflow tool, some type of workflow tool that's integrated across all of your end channels, right? So that what that was approved goes out the door with confidence, and then also that actually pulls from everything else, so that the ticket isn't in, let's say, Jira, and the content sits somewhere else in a drive, and you're trying to pull it together, right? A modular content database, right? Back to that idea of, instead of a giant claims document that you're updating and you're constantly managing and hoping that people read and go through, right? A actual database of approved content and approved claims in a modular fashion that can then be put together like Lego pieces, right? So that you actually have that kind of confidence there that you could pull from to make sure it's all done, right? So that if you want to say Bitcoin is money, you have geotags on your database. So you know that, like, okay, I can say it in these 6 countries, but I can't say it in those 8 countries. Okay, cool. Good to know, right? And then back to, well, finally, that agentic AI platform, right? That kind of platform that's going to then go and build it provides me capacity, right? So that all that BAU stuff I can run through there, and I can spend time addressing, let's say, regulator needs. And I can better operationalize all my time and putting it to time that matters, right? These 3 things protects not just the time and the sanity of your marketing operations teams, but it protects your business as a whole. Ensure that you're always there and ready and nimble to work within these highly regulated markets.